at the spots where I used to go windsurfing, it was windsurfers and kiteboarders only. Then a couple of years ago, I saw foils for the first time, and then wing foiling burst onto the scene. And now most people out there are on wing foil gear. JP, Duotone, Slingshot, all these big brands say that wing foiling is the fastest growing segment for them, and I'm not surprised. I'm an experienced windsurfer. I've windsurfed for decades now, and I'm also a somewhat experienced wing foiler. So today I want to answer the question, will wing foiling replace windsurfing? If you like my videos, please like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Welcome to Wind Addict. So why is wing foiling so popular? On the one hand, the gear is fairly small, right? You have your sail is something that you just pump up. There's no masts, booms to attach. There are no long lines to deal with. You don't need someone else to launch. From the sail perspective, it's fairly easy. And on the board perspective, yes, you have to attach a foil, but that's not such a big deal. And then you go out, you can have success fairly early on when you have some experience with some other water sport. It will usually take, I don't know, somewhat around 4 to 5 sessions or so, maybe a little more, until you have your first foiling sensations, and that's exciting. You fly over the water. But the key advantage of it is that of foils in general, that you're less dependent on strong wind. The wind can drop a bit, there can be lulls, you just glide through them. Overall, you need less power from the wind to have fun on the water compared to other wind sports. There are plenty of other advantages too. To make the next step in wing foiling is also easier than in other water sports, I would say. Jumping is fairly easy. Getting into waves can be a very cool sensation. You can depower the wing and then really surf the waves, which is easier than in other sports. So if, like most of us at your spot, you have, mediocre conditions, or you don't only want to go out on the really strong days that are far and few in between, then wing foiling can be a great sport for you. With windsurfing, there are a lot of aspects that make it much more difficult and challenging. Learning how to windsurf properly can take a very long time. It can be a grueling process, and I made my wife go through it. I recently posted a video where she talks a little bit about her experience. I'm going to link it in the description, and I'm going to link it up here. It's just very tough. It's very tough, very hard to learn. If you use your own gear, then it means rigging it all up. Gear is generally bigger. It's harder to transport. It can be a bit fragile. So a bit harder to maintain. It's overall, it can be a bit more of a pain to deal with the gear. And then with windsurfing, one of the key points for me is, again, what wing strength, what wind speed do you need to really have fun? So with windsurfing, it depends a lot on your weight. So if you're a lighter person, you have an advantage. But like myself, for example, I weigh 88 kilos. I probably could get going as of 13 knots or so, I would say, 13, 14, with fairly big gear. Then you're talking more than 8 square meter sail, a board with more than 130, 140 liters, that's 85 centimeters wide. That's huge gear. It feels like a truck windsurfing like that. And that's fine if you have really flat water. But as soon as there's chop and waves involved, that's not so much fun. I would not recommend it. So then in reality, windsurfing fun for me starts more at like 16 knots or so. Then I can take out my 71 centimeter wide free race board with a 7-meter sail, and that can be fun, especially in flat water. But then the true sweet spot starts more at 18, 19, even 20 knots. Then you can go to the smaller gear. You can have smaller sails, like 6 square meters and smaller, especially. I think the real sweet spot starts when you have a 5.3 sail and below. 4.7 is the absolute dream. This size sail allows you to do some really cool maneuvers, learn cool tricks. It opens up a range of possibilities. That's where these sizes most people use for wave surfing, for freestyle surfing, for any kind of advanced maneuvers. Jumping will be easier. So that's really the sweet spot of windsurfing. So that means at least 18, probably more than 20 knots is where the fun really starts with windsurfing. So 20 to 30 knots is like great for windsurfing. But even if you go to or live at fairly windy spots, I mean, we go on vacation in Le Cat in France. It's next to the Pyrenees, and this is where the Tramontana, the Tramontane wind really hits, where they do the Defi wind because of it. And yeah, you can get super strong wind, but many times if you go there for like a 2-week trip or so, it's not that strong. You know, we've had, you know, trips where, for example, my wife went out and we went there for 2 weeks and there was good wind for windsurfing on like, you know, 2 days there in that spot. Yeah, you can drive a little bit down the coast and try to get some thermic winds further down, but they're usually between 15 and 20 knots. So also that's sometimes borderline for windsurfing, and you get some chop, so it's more difficult. So again, that's really the key disadvantage of windsurfing. Yeah, it really depends on your access to these high winds. If you live in a spot, you know, if you're fine just going out very occasionally and live to a spot where you can, you know, depend on the wind forecast and just go whenever the wind is blowing, great. Then maybe a great sport for you. But for most of us, it's not that easy. You know, you have to kind of pre-book vacations, and then you just want to have fun on the water. And that's, yeah, sometimes with only windsurf gear, you just have to sit on the beach or do something else. Would I recommend someone starting a new water wind sport to learn windsurfing? No, I would not, because of those reasons. But is it an awesome sport? Yes, it is. I mean, I sounded very negative right now. But having learned it and having the skill set to do it, I don't want to stop doing it. I have not given up windsurfing. I still love it. And when the conditions are there, I love it. Wing foiling for me is something that I do here at my home spot, where the wind is usually not so great. But when I go on vacation and I can go to a spot that's windier and I have the wind to support it, I love windsurfing. So for myself, I don't see myself switching to only wing foiling anytime soon. So here are some of the cool things that you can do with windsurfing. First of all, just going in a straight line, fast windsurfing can be exhilarating. It's really hard to describe that feeling, but when you plane for the first time, you're ecstatic. It's the most amazing feeling, and it doesn't stop, kind of. It's always great. You have like this direct contact with the water. So just the way it skids over the water, and you know, you hear these little touchdowns, and you're going really fast. It's a great sense of speed, and you are going fast. I mean, I would say the average windsurfing session, you're going faster than on an average wing foiling session. Then the maneuvers are tough and challenging, but at the same time, that makes it very rewarding when you finally get there. I mean, the carve jibe in windsurfing is this elusive maneuver for many people, and it takes years and years to first do a dry carve jibe usually, and then we're not even speaking about full planing carve jibes. That's a whole different story. And I just recently did my first full planing jibe. It was a duck jibe. I'm going to show a clip here. It was a great feeling. So yeah, when you have these successes like first carve jibe, first duck jibe, first jumps, or more basic stuff like first water start, first time planing, they're really big moments and they're really exciting. Regarding learning maneuvers in wing foiling, it's a long road to your first jibe, staying on foil. But then I feel like things come more easily compared to windsurfing, definitely. You're more likely to stick your jibes in general. Chop doesn't matter so much and doesn't impact you as much in wing foiling. And then you can quickly learn other types of jibes that are really fun, or even the tack. So you can learn the Heineken jibe, the race jibe. You can learn the tack. You can learn jumping. You can learn all kinds of things, and riding waves. And these things come more easily. And it's also a big rush when you get them for the first time. It's super exciting to learn these maneuvers, and the success rate is higher than in windsurfing. It is more rewarding, of course. If things are harder, then succeeding gives you more of a rush, more excitement that one time. But in wing foiling, the success and the positive feedback is more regular. And then you have a lot of possibilities with windsurfing of going down different routes or to specialize on different things. So either you can go for speed, so you would get a free race board, for example, and camber sails. Like you then go out usually with bigger sails. You would typically do that with flat water, and you can just go really, really fast and do these really fast carve jibes with that gear. And that can be fun, can be a lot of fun for some, just blasting around. What I like to do most is get on a free wave board. These are boards for so-called bump and jump conditions. So when you have some chop and you jump around and do like fast maneuvers and you get a little bit into waves. And with these boards you can learn some really cool maneuvers, like downwind 360s. Jumping is easier, and you can do first, all kinds of like more basic freestyle moves with them, and they're really responsive, and it's really fun. And then you can get into actual waves, get wave windsurf boards. If you have nice swell at your local spot, that can be great. In that scenario, you can also do very big jumps, like you can learn front loops, push loops, back loops, but that's very advanced stuff. But again, it's very hard to find the nice conditions for wave windsurfing. Not everyone has that at their doorstep, and you need enough wind and the right kinds of waves to be able to do that. And then you can do freestyle, and learn Vulcans, Flacas, Spocks, and all kinds of, Konos, burners, all kinds of crazy rotations. And that is really cool. I tried getting into that for a bit, but again, the wind, the conditions that I got even on my trips to Le Cat, it usually wasn't enough. You need flat water and strong winds, especially with my weight. And I think people who are lighter weight, below 80 kilos, you have a big advantage. You can do it in a bit lighter winds because you need to use small sails for that. So there's so many aspects to it, and it's hard to put the finger on it. but the sensations that you get from it on the really good days, they're just amazing. It's like a drug. You get like addicted to it. If you have the perfect amount of wind, nice conditions, you know, and you do a jug dive, you get out of it, switch, and the power is enough to keep planing. It's like, it's indescribable. It's just a rush and it's so much fun. If you're new to water and wind sports and you're really thinking about what should I get into, if you really want to be a waterman, you know, like, so I would recommend to go for wing foiling first and foremost. There may be some locations where that is not possible, where, you know, the water is so shallow that you cannot do wing foiling or any foiling at your local spot. And then it's completely fine. Then by all means do windsurfing or kite surfing if that's possible. But for most spots, wing foiling will be the best option. It will allow you to go out many more days than with the other water sports, and you're gonna have fun with it. But then, you know, if you want a bit extra and, you know, you really want to challenge yourself, can you pick up windsurfing on top of that? Of course you can. I'm really wondering where windsurfing is going. If it will just stay like this little niche, or if it's just going to be, you know, if all the windsurfers are going to be older and older people. Like if I go to the different, I always say, if I go to the different windsurfing spots here around the Mediterranean, the hot spots, you see a lot of middle to older aged Germans who make up a big chunk of the windsurfing population, it seems. So yeah, I wonder, will windsurfing become a small niche at some point? I definitely think wing foiling will be the biggest wind sport for a long time to come. I mean, there's kite surfing, of course, kiteboarding, but that has some limitations of its own. It's not allowed everywhere. For example, here where I live, there are only a couple of beaches in this Catalonia area where kite surfing is allowed in the summer. In winter, you can do it anywhere. And then you usually need someone to help you with your lines to get the kite launched. So I do think wing foiling will be the best option for most people. To be more systematic, I'm going to rate different aspects of each sport on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the best. So rigging gear in windsurfing, 2. In wing foiling, 4. The fun of going in a straight line, windsurfing, 5. Wing foiling, 2. The difficulty, windsurfing, 1. Wing foiling, 3. With difficulty, so 1 meaning bad, is meaning it's very difficult to learn. With wing foiling, I put a 3 because even though it's easy to learn, you know, for some it may be a bit challenging to be on a foil and that sensation. You know, with beginner gear you're usually fine, but falling off and falling onto the foil can be a bit dangerous in the beginning. Then we have gear maintenance, windsurfing 1. Wing foiling 4, then surfing waves, windsurfing 2, wing foiling 4, then wind strength needed with normal gear size, windsurfing 2, wing foiling 4, and then the feeling of accomplishment when learning maneuvers, windsurfing 5, wing foiling 3. So the total of windsurfing is 2.6, kind of smack down in the middle, and wing foiling 3.4. So wing foiling wins, but again, windsurfing is like what we call it in German sometimes, the winner of the heart. For me, still the most exciting if the conditions are there. Yeah, what has your experience been? Have you done both sports? Are you interested in starting either sport? Let me know if you agree with my ratings. Let me know what you think the future of windsurfing and wing foiling will be. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe and like, and I'll see you in the next one.